Hello, I'm Nancy Smith Mattox on WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network, and I have a radio show called Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you. Wanted to let you know that WYTV7 and Shine Your Light is a talk forum. We have real people, real life, real speakers that are talking about real events of the local time. We are a top rated radio station and a top rated radio show. So I'm really excited about that. What we are not is a reality show or an entertainment show. We have a mission of hope that we share with everyone around the world. So if you're interested in being interviewed on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry on WYTV7, please contact me. And thank you so much for joining in and enjoy the broadcast. Hello, I'm Nancy Smith Mattox, broadcasting in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Charlotte, North Carolina on WYTV7, Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. You're in for a huge treat and some very, very poignant story tonight, a story of love, loss, and faith. I think this is going to really move a lot of people. We're going to get a lot of education and a lot of information from this couple, even through their tragedy. But before I do that, I want to say that WYTV7 is a nonprofit. We do take donations, and we use our donations to broadcast, to promote the broadcast, this broadcast and our other broadcasts on WYTV7. A couple of million people do watch our broadcast, and we use that money to advertise it. So thank you so much. Without further ado, let me introduce my guests. I'm just really excited to have them tonight and to share their beautiful and tragic story. Mr. Henry and Miss Gwendolyn McNutt. Their story is a true story of love, loss, and faith. The name of the book they've written that shares this story is Angels Never Die. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, tell us a little bit about your early ages, when you met. You met very, very early. And from what I read, it was love at first sight. So let's share that pleasant news.
Okay. I was at a fairground in just a little town before where I live, and we met there. And he was like my knight of China armory, and my superstar because he was a basketball player. And when I met him, he was a tall, handsome gentleman, and I fell in love with him. And we got married, and this is where we've been staying and win. And he's still in my knight of China armory, and I still love him. We've been married for 43 years. And I'm still happy, even though we lost our children, but I'm still happy.
Wow. Well, I got married. I just celebrated my 47th wedding anniversary. And I tell everybody I got married when I was a teenager. I like to say it was my early teens, but really it was I was 17 and my husband was 18 when we got married. And we've had a lot of ups and downs, but you know what? It's hard work to make a marriage work. But the main thing is love. I mean, love just does it for everyone. And no matter if it's a spouse or a family member or even other people, love makes the world go round. So, but what were you going to say, Mr. Henry?
Well, I was going to say, when we met at the county fair in St. Francis County, but when the fair was over with, I was driving my old GMC truck, and so that night it went crank. So I got out and raised the hood up and trying to choke it, and while I was out working on that, when she pulled up, that's how we met. Now, if that truck had cranked up when I got ready to leave, I'd have been gone before she come out of there. But I guess God will to help me there until she came out.
I love that. Well, yeah. Also for my guests, they are from Wynne, Arkansas, which is a very poignant and tragic story of how you lost 4 of your sons to 2 rare blood disorders. Now, you had 6 children, 2 daughters and 4 sons. So let's go right into the me to the story about your sons that you lost. One was 11, one was 14, one was 10, and one was 19 when you lost them. So let's get into that story. And what WYTV and Shine Your Light does that is so wonderful is we allow you to tell your story and shine your light so other people will realize that you can get through tragedy and anything that happens to you in your life if you have God in it and you open your heart and you listen to God. So let's go ahead and start talking about that tragedy, okay?
Okay.
Well, our boys were diagnosed with 2 bone marrow disorders, and we were sent to we were from St. Jude, but they sent us to Rockefeller University in New York City, and that's when they were diagnosed with 2 rare bone marrow disorders. One was Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, and the other one was Fanconi anemia. And what happened is when we stayed there like 5 days, but when we came back to Arkansas, the media got the news, and what they done, they announced it to the public, and when the public got it, people from far or near came to support us. And they, some people we knew and some people we did not know. To me, they were just like angels from God. They were there for every circumstances. And they heard about our story. It was a tragedy story, and then the boy was, some of them they were still living. They was playing, and we never knew that they were sick until the doctor diagnosed them. And they were still climbing trees, and you never would know that we had all our kids before, all our children before we even knew anything was going on with them. And so they had bone marrow failure, and the bone marrow don't grow when they grow. And so it was really a rare story to the media and to everybody else. And they was just right there for us through the bone marrow drive, the bone blood drive, whatever we needed. People were there just like angels for every circumstances.
Yes, ma'am.
And
if they had had bone marrow transplants, would that have saved them?
But we tried the bone marrow transplant on Adam, and but St. Jude, what they transplant him with, he was allergic to it, and it was awful. It was really awful death, and it was really awful. So my other boys, when we talked to them, they said they didn't want the bone marrow transplant. I know my old son, he said, I'd rather die like I am than go through that. So he said, Dad, I don't want to go through that. By the first transplant was so bad, and they didn't want to try the transplant. Now my oldest last son that died, he was going to try the transplant, but it took him so long because he had a big rise that come up on his arm, and they didn't want to kill his bone marrow with that big rise and set up a lot of infection. So by the time they got that healed, that turned to leukemia, and so it was too far gone. So he died from leukemia. Because that bone marrow, their bone marrow didn't grow when they grow. And so your bone marrow make all, your blood, like white blood cells, red blood cells, your platelets, all that come through your bone marrow. Here I am 6'6", and their bone marrow is not gonna grow when they grow. So that was shocking to me. It said bone marrow ain't gonna keep up. So they're always gonna be needing blood. They're gonna be needing platelets. They're gonna be needing red blood cells. It was just an ongoing thing, going back and forth to the hospital, getting blood, and it being easy to catch colds and stay sick all the time. But I tell anybody, when your child growing up, and you having children, pay close attention to your children. Don't shun them off. Cause I like to lost my oldest boy when he was like 6, 7 years old. Cause I didn't really listen to him, and but I was out playing the garden. I had him out there helping me, but he started sweating, and he said, "Dad, I don't feel too good." And I told him, I said, "Son, it will make a man out of you when you keep working." Cause I brought up working. I want him to work. And so later on that evening, when he started running fevers, and I rushed him to the hospital, and when I got my halfway to the hospital, and my older girl said, "Daddy Junior he ain't responding. He's not saying anything." And so when I got to the hospital, I opened the door and he fell out on the ground. And I scooped him up off the ground. I ran to the hospital. And just so happened, I caught the doctor crossing the hallway. And he said, take him in that room right there. And I took him in there and laid him down. And when the doctor put the thing on and checked his heart, he said his heart just stopped. And he pulled that emergency strain. And them two nurses come down there and they shocked him 3 times. And he got a heartbeat. But he said, I done shocked him 3 times. I won't shock him no more. But if it stop again, we're going to let him go. And when I said that, I was tore up. I said, Lord, if you're going to take the child, please don't take him now. Because he kept begging me all that day. He said, Dad, I'm sick. Dad, I'm sick. But I didn't take him serious. You know, I didn't know it was going to be that serious. But the Lord blessed him that he did get to come home that time. But see, he was like 7 or 8 years old then, but he lived to get like 14.
I was going to say, he's the one
years old.
So 14. So these are genetic diseases, right? So you two carry the genes for this.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
When were they diagnosed? At what point in time were they diagnosed? And how long did this go on in your family before they passed away? Was it a 20-year thing or not?
Well, none of them lived to get over 20. But now, when it really got serious, like my oldest boy, he was always sick, running fevers and stuff. Now, my second son, when he started running fevers and stuff, and my baby girl, she was sick, and we had a doctor appointment for her. But when I got, and they said they couldn't see my son because I didn't have no appointment. So when I went in to see Dr. Patton, and he said, your daughter got a cold. And I told him, I said, Dr. Patton, I don't mean no harm, but my son is out there in the floorboard of my van, and he can't even get up. He's so sick. And Dr. Patton told me, he said, you go out there and get that child right now. Don't even stop at the desk. He said, bring him straight back to me. So I did that. And he run the tests, and his hemoglobin was very low. His bone marrow had started not making, he didn't have enough to make blood keep up. He said, you need to start taking this boy to St. Jude where you take your oldest son. Because he need blood right now. So we rushed him over there, and they gave him some blood, and he got up and did good when he they had to constantly give him blood. And he did pretty good. And then they got concerned about the other boys. So we had already stopped having children, and Carl and Randall. And we took them over to St. Jude, and they tested them and come back and told all 4 of the boys was bone marrow wasn't gonna grow when they grow. And so they said, y'all can have no more kids. Well, my wife was already fixed. We ain't having no more children no way. So that stopped there. I said, I'm glad we did, because they said, because this disease, the boys that had this, they didn't live very long because their bone marrow didn't grow when they grow. So there were 2 other families that had it. They didn't live to get over 20 years old. And so when he said that, I said, no, when they get blood, they did so good with it. But it's just only so many blood transfusions you could get, to really help you. But he said, but now when they get like 20, it'll be a blessing they get over 20 years old. That's what he said. No, I didn't really believe it. Because, like a lot of times they said, doctor said one thing, but God said another. But I don't know why. This case, they told the truth. Then none of them lived to get 20 years old. All 4 of them died. Yeah.
So, so how long of a time frame was this you had to deal with this in your family? I mean, they were like what? The oldest one was 7 when the diagnosis came down, and he passed away at 14, so that was 7 years. So you had to deal with this at least 15 or 16 years with all 4 sons.
Many years.
Yeah.
It was many years because
this model said about 19, because boy Randy lived to get 19.
Randy lived to get, he was almost 19. But
well, it was almost 19 years.
But
and like I said, we had to go to the hospital. So sometimes we would check one out and be getting ready to go home, had to check one in. Wow. And sometimes we would be on our way home.
Just for a point of reference for people that are listening, our viewers, you live in Wynne, Arkansas, and it's what, about 30 miles from Memphis, which is where St. Jude
It's
is.
an hour and a half drive. Well, it's an hour. It's
Longer than that.
It's about an hour. If you drive the
90
speed limit.
miles. It's about 90 miles from home. So
Yeah, you drive the speed limit. It take you about an hour to get there. But there was some days I didn't drive the speed limit because when my baby boy, when he got in trouble, he was his bone marrow wasn't making enough platelets. And you know these little hospital pans they give you when you come home from the hospital sometimes. And he had one of them up under his chin. His blood was running from his nose just that bad. And it had about, the blood was just starting to cover the bottom of the pan. And I was trying to get him to St. Jude to get some platelets, you know, to stop that bleeding. And a state trooper pulled me over. And he helped me too long. They helped us too long. He wound up bleeding in his head.
Oh,
That what messed him up. And I begged that state trooper. I pleaded with him and begged him. And he thought that we were just out there clowning. Now, he's seeing this boy with blood just run out his nose in a pan. And he looked at my son. He said, "Son, you all right?" My baby boy said, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine." And he called me back to the car. Because we had lost my oldest boy and my second oldest son had already died. He asked me their birthday, the day they died, how old was they, their name. He asked me all these questions, and he told me to go and call my wife back and see that the story matched. And she told him the same thing that I told him. And I told him, "Man, I'm trying to get my kid to St. Jude. You can ask me anything you want to, just let me get him to the doctor." And when he found out that we really had a problem, he called an ambulance service from West Memphis. They had to come all the way out to Earl, Arkansas. We sitting on the side of the road all that time. And when they got
horrible. That's just horrible. And your baby boy's bleeding to death, and he can't produce enough blood for the blood that he's losing. Oh my word! Well, what he should have done is he should have given you an escort so you could go 100 miles an hour to get there. I mean, that's why I don't quite understand why he didn't do that, but that's horrible. Yeah. So as your boys were passing away, the other brothers knew that was their path too, right?
Yeah,
it's so tragic. It makes me cry.
Yeah, my baby boy, whenever my boy got in trouble, how the doctor would come in, put masks over their nose, and he had this little light they put on your finger, to keep your vital, check your vital signs and all that. My baby boy couldn't stand that. So one day he was getting some blood. He had a reaction to the blood, and they gave him some Benadryl and stopped that, then started another one. But see, the Benadryl make you real sleepy. So when he woke up, they had put that light on his finger. He woke up and saw that light. He said, "Who put this light on my finger? Get this light on me right now. I don't want this light on my finger." Because he knew when they put his light on his brother, they soon died. They didn't, something was serious wrong. So he didn't want that light. He didn't want that light.
It's so tragic, and it's just such a sad story. I know God has a reason for everything that he does and the trials that he puts us through, but it seemed like you had more than your fair share in your family. So I'm just elated that your spirit is so great, and that that you're able to talk about this, because other people need to hear this. Other families are going through this, and these kind of stories are the ones that help them get through and know that you can get through these trials, but you have to have your heart open to God. You just have to. So, Miss McNutt, how did you deal with your children that knew they were going to die? How did you deal with that? I mean, I just don't know how you dealt with that. I'd just be crying every time I looked at them.
It was really, really hard for me, but I had to try to learn to accept it. It was nothing I could do. I cried, I prayed, I did everything I knew to do, but it was nothing changing. And that's the time, you can let things get to your head a little too far. There was a time I put myself in the closet. I was thinking about committing with my first son. And I had never dealt with death like that, Mm-hmm. And when he died, I just felt like I was lost. I lost so much. And I went into the closet and I thought about doing drugs and alcohol. I'm trying to figure out what can I do to get rid, just clear my head and my mind, just don't think about it at all. And it was very tough for me just to lose that one. But I was trying to learn how to accept it, you know, by listening, thinking about the word of God in my head, you know, how you can make it. And I had, you know, I thought about it, when we get married and have children, we have so much good thing in our head, the way we want it to be. We want to be like any other newlywed with nice home, nice car, and just nice, healthy children. But sometimes things just don't turn out the way we want it to be, the way we planned it. And I guess our plan turned out to be God's mission, you know. And that's what I was thinking on. I said, well, after I lost him, everything that came by the wind blow or anything, I feel like this is my son. You know, I just started wanting to feel him. And I had a dream about him, and that, you know, this kind of made me feel good. And after that, I had deal with 3 more. And so I had no idea, but I guess the Lord was strengthening me, and I never would thought in the world, no kind of way I could have dealt with anything like this in my life.
Exactly.
But
well,
I was able to do it.
you had, thank goodness you were both faithful, and you do say this is a story of faith, because I mean, I'm not sure how many people can get through it. I know you couldn't have gotten through it if you didn't have faith, but you've just gone through an awful lot. And I know as I was reading through your information, you talk about how you remember locking yourself in the closet. And I made a little note to myself that I wanted to ask you about. It reminds me of The War Room, that movie, The War Room, where the lady had the room she went into to pray into. And I thought, boy, your closet must have been your war room. I
my war room.
can't even imagine. And that's what that was like, right?
Right. So it really was a help, you know, just to get in there. So the Lord just kind of lead you and talk to you about, you know, you thinking one way and he putting in your head through the word, you know, another way. And it really helped me. And I started to realize after the divorce had died, I cannot have changed. I started trying to blame myself, blame, you know, other people. And it came to me that, you know, why can you blame something when nobody else had control over? Only God had control of that. He got control over things unstoppable, unremovable. Things we cannot do, that only God has control over. And I had to realize that I had to accept it. I can't change it, no matter what I do. And so it's all done now. So I just try to, you know, just keep my strength up and my faith up, and just realize that God is in control, not myself or my husband.
When did the last one pass away?
2004.
2000.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Y'all are very, very strong people. Oh my goodness. Y'all are beautiful, beautiful examples of what God wants us all to be like. I just have so many thoughts whirling through my mind, but I do know that y'all are some of the most faithful people I've ever met in my life. So, and for that, I'm happy that I've met your acquaintance. So tell me a little bit about your daughters. You had 6 kids. You had 4 boys and 2 daughters. Tell me a little bit about your daughters. Your daughters were not plagued with these 2 diseases, this bone marrow.
No, ma'am. It's on a fake board. They real healthy. My daughters are real healthy. And,
how old are they now, the daughters?
What is the
one is 42 and the other is 33.
And
wow.
my oldest girl, she got 3 boys. And both of the 2 oldest boys play football. And one of my oldest grandson, he just signed with Crawfordville, Kansas, a couple weeks ago.
So
he's gonna play.
Wow, that's great! Isn't that wonderful? So, so how many grandchildren do you have?
We have all boys and 3 boys. We don't have no girls. The 3 boys.
So were your daughters afraid or frightened of having children because the gene could have carried through to their children?
It seemed like
it, you know.
Now I do want to share this. My daughter, my oldest daughter, she was like 15, and she was the bone marrow donor to Adam, and when he had the transplant. And I thought she was so strong in order to do that. You know, she kind of like risking her own life to save her brother's life. And I'm so grateful to her. And they all just, you know, they're just wonderful children. And I'm just so grateful for my whole family, you know, how they stood so strong. They were so strong. And
then you said
they missed their brother.
People reached out to y'all from all over the world. So what happened when you went to the Rockefeller Hospital in New York City?
Well, one thing, Dr. Orbach, she tried to identify that gene that was in my wife and I. She tried to identify it. And she drew a lot of blood, took bone marrow samples and stuff. But the further I understand it, she never could trace it because it was so rare. They were trying to identify that gene, but to my knowledge, she never did identify it. And we named it "Angels Never Die," and so many angels out there. There's one story that I would love to tell, but it's hard for me to tell it because it makes me cry, but it's making me have joy too, because this is one of God's angels that he sent to me. Because one of my boys was in trouble at the hospital, and they were trying to make a decision to take his spleen out. And they said, if you take the spleen out, it would help your bone marrow or something. And every time I would get ready to leave the hospital, come home and get my check, it was coming up to Christmas. And they had told us that you ain't there by 3 o'clock to pick your check up, you wasn't gonna get it. So every time I get ready to leave, they would call me into another meeting. And I would call my work and tell them I'm trying to get all the doctors need me. And it was just a big confusion that day. So when I did get a loose and I made it to my workplace, I was running up the sidewalk and the lady locked the door and wouldn't give me my check.
Oh my God.
And I didn't have enough gas money to even get back to Memphis, you know. And what I did was a McDonald's across the street. I drove over there at McDonald's and I called home. And I told asked my mama for my daddy, but he wasn't at home. And I'm knowing my son up in the house this surgery. I said, I had made up in my mind, I'm gonna give him my car and I'm gonna drive it till they run out of gas and I just run the rest of the way. And while I was on the phone, a guy come up, he owned a big old salvage yard here in Wynn, which he dead now. And I was talking on the phone, he said, what's McNutt? He said, I heard about your problem. I'm gonna give you a little something to help you. He just stuck it in my pocket and kept walking because I was trying to get my dad on the phone. So when I got on the phone, I said, I'm gonna get in my car and I'm just gonna drive until I run out of gas. And when I run out, I just run the rest of the way to the hospital. And I was driving along and I thought about it. How he put his hands in my pocket? So I reached in my pocket to see what he put in there. It was $800.
Oh my word.
I was on the road. I was crying. I couldn't hold a wheel. That was a blessing. I said, angels, God got angels around here.
And they will never die.
And they will
Some
never
leave
die.
this earth, when they leave this earth, there's no please more.
So that's kind of how you start. That's kind of how you got the book title, Angels Never Die.
Never die.
Wow.
They'll never die out.
Yeah.
Never die out. Some may leave the face of this earth, but more going to come to help you through your problems.
You know what?
See,
I don't understand.
I know I can't tell all of them, but that was my main one.
Wow. Well, what I don't understand is your work. I mean, you would have had to have been coming an hour to get there, and then she locked the door when she saw you. I'm like, how can people do that? I mean, I'm like, but you know what? You got a blessing. You got a blessing that God gave you by meeting this gentleman over here at McDonald's. My goodness. So we have an awesome God, don't we? Wow, oh wow.
Sure will. That lady locked the door, and I pleaded and begged with her, and she went and got the manager. He came to the door and talked to me. He said, we told everybody, if you ain't picked your check up by 3 o'clock, it's about 5 minutes after. You're not going to get it.
What's so sad is they knew what your circumstances were.
They knew what my circumstances were. They knew
you're running back and forth to the hospital to try to keep your children alive. My word.
That check was the only thing I was depending on. But when I went across there and that guy put that money in my pocket, and I had passed one gas station, but I didn't pass the next one because I had reached in my pockets, got that money. And I couldn't hardly pump that gas. I didn't kind of look people in the eye because I was crying.
I can sure understand. It's bringing a tear to my eye right now. But you know what's kind of ironic is you went over to McDonald's with the golden arches, okay?
Yeah.
McDonald's is known for the golden arches. And there you had angels right there at the golden arches. Isn't that amazing? I mean, and I'm sure you've got story after story that you can tell about these angels that helped you all along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it all comes back to an awesome God that we serve that is full of love and grace for all of us. And
our boys had
Sam?
I said our boys had some faith too because they were going through, and the Lord would show different things that they was getting healed at some time, but He let us know all along that He was going to take them. We saw many, many miracles work through them, and we hoped there was the hope that we had that they was going to pull it all the way through. But the Lord had something else different that He really was going to take them, but He showed us that He could heal them if He wanted to. So that's what I saw them do. They had the faith, and we did too.
Yes, ma'am. Oh my goodness, and so did 100,000 other angels that were helping you throughout this whole ordeal. Well, I'm so happy. We're gonna have to wrap up. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about the book because I know a lot of people are going to want to buy this book and read it. And but one other question before that: when you went to Rockefeller, in New York City, was that more for them to do research on y'all? To research this gene that you had that caused this, so it was more or less a research.
Yes, it was more like a research. More like a research, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They did many things on them, you know.
Yeah, they draw a lot of blood. They took bone marrow. They put them boys to sleep and collected something off of their brain. I don't know what. That whole hospital was weird to me because it's a hospital where you tried before the government put it on the market for people to buy. They had to go through that hospital.
Oh,
like one guy, they were trying to invent a bed, like if somebody have a stroke or heart attack, they got to lay in the bed for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy had to lay in his bed and he couldn't get up. They brought him food, water. He had to lay there. He couldn't get out. And one guy had on an oily robe. He couldn't pull it off. He had to wear it the whole time he was there. They were just things that government put on the market. They would go through them first. If the Bell Aspirins or whatever.
Sure.
Hospital was.
So it was more or less a research hospital.
Something more like this. Something like research on stuff.
Yeah. So did you ever find out if they ever determined anything about these conditions and these diseases and these genes that you carry? Did y'all ever get any research? Did you ever get any information back about it?
It's just very rare. You like
I just know you didn't question it because you knew you have such a strong faith. You really didn't question it, but it could have helped with other cases, you know. So
the last time we talked to her, they said she wasn't able to find anything or identify the gene because that's what they were trying to explain, that they needed this blood to try to identify the gene that caused it. That way, if anybody else look for it, before you get married or something.
I don't know. I think one time they were saying it was 10, but it's down to 1 out of 100,000, a million men and males, that can get it. It's very rare. And they just discovered that she's the diagnosis, that's what it was. There were 2 in one family, Fanconi anemia and Wish-Scott-Aldrich syndrome. So that's what they determined what it is.
Yeah.
And so it looked like our boy mostly had Wish-Scott-Aldrich because they never lived to get over. When you have Fanconi anemia, you can get to 30 and 40 years old. Girls and boys can have that. But with the Wish-Scott-Aldrich, only boys have it. And it's just very, very rare. So we knew that what they claimed, that what they said they had. But it's no.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few more minutes. I want you to talk a little bit about the book and tell us where we can get the book And do you have a book there with you?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I don't have it in my.
Okay, I was going to say, hold it up so we can see it. That's okay. But tell us a little bit about how we can get the book. Hold it up a little bit so we can see it. Hold it up above your head.
Those are.
A little bit higher.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, those are my songs.
Oh,
but anyway, he's going.
Well, tell us a little bit about the book because we only got a few more minutes, okay?
Okay. The book, to me, I wrote it because we want to make more awareness of what's going on with our, what's going on. It's so rare. And as well as it took my children away, it's going to take somebody else. It's not the end of it. And I'm hoping to get encouragement through this book. And I would like to, be able to talk to people about it more. But I want to talk to more about faith. It's all in the book. And so, that's basically what I'm working with this book. Make awareness for people to know about it. I did talk about faith. I did talk about how we lost our kids and love. We had the love of the people that came forth and really helped us get through this. If you don't believe that, God's not going to walk himself as a person and walk with you. So it got to be, he sent his angels to help. And so sometimes people, they kind of like torture themselves. But when God already told us, when I said in the book, when God already told us that he's going to comfort us through our grieving and through whatever we're going through with, he will comfort us. And so that's what I had. I believe that. I have faith. I didn't want to torture myself about my memories, my bad memories, only my good.
And then look what God gave you, grandchildren that you can be really happy with.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I thank you for holding that book up, and I thank you for being with us a little while tonight. This will air tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock, and also will, a couple of, several million people could see it, and that's what I wanted to do, is make people aware of what your story was, what your tragedy was, and how your strong faith. This is a true story of love, loss, and faith, and I think your book's going to tell a lot of people a lot more about that. So I really, I hope that you'll be able to glean. People will be able to glean the information that we want in this interview. But I thank you so much for your time, Mr. Henry and Miss Gwendolyn. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.